Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Clover. Nice to have you joining today. The coronavirus epidemic is putting the world on lockdown. It's now a daily occurrence of the virus, which is causing a big scare around the world. What should we be doing about it to avoid not being infected? The new coronavirus causes the disease COVID-19. Today, please help me welcome a newly retired naturopathic doctor, Nora Pope. Nora, COVID-19, what or how do we, where is it from?
It started in China. It started in Yunnan province in November, roughly November 2019. So that we know. And it has spread all over the world. I think why the spread was so dramatic, especially in the beginning, is that there are many migrant workers in China. So these workers leave their homes and locate themselves in Wuhan and in sort of concentrated dorms. And so you have hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands, millions of people working and living in very cramped conditions. So they're living in a dorm, crowded, and they're working in various factories and locations. And then with the Chinese New Year, you had millions of people, traveling in and out of Wuhan. Millions. I think 6 or 7 million. And that increased the spread. So because we live in a world that's far more mobile, but that's just the nature of having so many migrant workers leaving their homes and working in Wuhan.
And they're actually moving around, and some are leaving the country.
No, they're not leaving the country. They're traveling within China. But I think what's very important is that you have millions of people living temporarily in Wuhan. And then for the Chinese New Year, you had millions leave Wuhan and travel all over China. And so they were unknowingly carrying the virus with them. That's why I think it spread so dramatically in China, because they're living in cramped conditions and they're working in cramped conditions. And that's just the nature of being a migrant worker in China.
So it would spread how? It's human to human contact. So far?
Sure. So basically, right now we're roughly 4 feet away. So the fact that I'm speaking to you, I have this we all have invisible respiratory droplets coming out, as we're speaking. So I'll try not to spit on you, but and they can travel up to 6 feet, and so you can be breathing that in, and so that's one way it's transmitted. And also the fact that if someone sneezes, it can land on many surfaces and can live up to 3 to 5 days. So these viruses are very, very resilient. So there are many ways you can get exposed to it.
No, they're saying it stays on metal longer than fabric. Is that a fact?
I don't know.
Okay,
yeah.
It's fine.
Okay,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
No, I think it's documented. I think with clothes, it's 2 to 3 days. Metal, 5 days. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what measures can we take?
Okay. So there's all kinds of things. Can I just go? I want to just sort of help with definitions though, because I think this is important. Here. So I think when people sneeze, don't get worried. Don't get worried, because that's not a common symptom of COVID. But of course, when you're sneezing, you should be sneezing in your elbow. So the symptoms you really want to look for are fever, fatigue, and cough, a dry cough. Ironically, a cough without lots of fluid and phlegm. So that's very, very important. So I think it's good to we're doing a lot of things right now to mitigate the spread, but let's be rational. So if someone sneezes or coughs, do it in your sleeve, but a sneeze is not common for this COVID. So I think
for every cough or sneeze right now, people are thinking it's COVID.
Well, especially, So basically you want to cough or sneeze in your elbow. Now, so I have a chart here that we can share with our viewers, and this is from the World Health Organization. And it's really good to study this chart. But what's very common in the coronavirus, in COVID-19, is fever and cough, and it's dry. It's very, very important. So I think I can't stress that enough. So, and then they talk about a 14-day quarantine. This is very, very, very important. This is why I'm glad there are sort of these mitigating factors taking place right now. Let's try and reduce crowded places, because you could be carrying the virus for 11 days and you don't know that you have it. And then let's say you have the cough and the fever and you get tested, the test can be negative and can take up to 5 days to show large amounts of viral particles in the blood. That's called viral load. And viral load can take up to 5 days. So 11 plus 5, that's 16 days. So they're giving you a recommendation of 14 days to isolate yourself or quarantine yourself, because about 98% of the time you won't infect someone. So that's why it's important. So right now, recently there was a big trade show in Toronto, and one man is sick, and he's in Sudbury, and over 20,000 people were at that convention. So what should you do? Well, you should practice social distancing and monitor, and take care of yourself. And we can talk about that later, how you can really take care of your immune system. But I think I want to calm people down. Sneezing is it's not the coronavirus most of the time. And then you can hold your breath. Try holding your breath for 10 seconds. And if you can do it without coughing,
right,
you can do it without discomfort,
then you're good.
Then your lungs has no disease process or fibrosis. So these are things you can do every day, and this can console children, this can console elderly. So I think that's very, very important to do. And then the lab tests that they're doing are very, very robust, but basically
it's essential though.
yeah, well, you want to, basically what they're doing is they're correlating, if you have the virus, they're correlating to what's happening to your white blood cells, to your lymphocytes, and what's happening to your actual blood thinning actions in the blood. D-dimers is one of the tests that they use as well. And so, because that's how you monitor the progress of the disease and the progress of the recovery. So I think in a very short amount of time, they've been able to really analyze the disease process and the disease recovery. And and this is done way faster than SARS done in 2003.
It is a cold, so if someone recovers, it can reoccur, right?
Well, I think in this case, see yes, you're right. A coronavirus causes SARS, the cold, and this new COVID-19. I think because it's new, once you get it once, you're inoculated. I think we can't think that far ahead. If we get reinfected, it is possible to get reinfected if you're not taking care of yourself, working in cramped situations, and being exposed constantly to a lot of sick people. So,
okay, let's take a quick break. More coming up. Don't go away. Welcome back. Nora, during this COVID-19 now, people are scared of dying. That's one of the main issues right now. What should they do?
But there's a lot you can do. And again, I want to just sort of give it some context. People who are at higher risk of dying have perhaps cancer. They have a much higher risk of dying. If they have high blood pressure, if they have a respiratory disease like COPD or asthma, if they have diabetes, if they have a heart condition. But otherwise, if you don't have any of these health conditions, the death rate right now, it's been reported, is under 1%. So that's very important.
So a pre-existing condition can trigger you going down.
It can increase your risk.
Right.
So like I said, the death rate is under 1% in areas that have done more testing, and I'll get to that later. But if you have, lung disease or heart disease, it goes up to 10%. So that's why those populations have to really take care of themselves.
Yeah, these are the people who need to see their doctor and make sure they're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And diabetes too, because there's something about blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes, your white blood cells go down, and so you're just more at risk for infection. And of course, with cancer, you're immunocompromised, especially if you're going through chemotherapy. That's So what you can do. So here, I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but I thought people would start washing their hands after SARS, and I'm just amazed. People don't wash their hands enough, and soap and water is critical. So when you're touching anything in your kitchen, like you said, it can live on the counter for up to 5 days. Always wash your hands after you touched anything. In your car, your smartphone, you should wash your smartphone cover at least once a day.
Simple things people do not consider. Even your bag that you carry every day, the handle may be contaminated.
Sure.
As soon as I get in the door from work, I'm straight to the washroom washing my hands.
There we go. Good
Sometimes it's after that I'll take my shoes off and then another rewash. But you come in maybe on your hands, and by touching, you're leaving the imprint.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, it's, we subconsciously want to touch our faces. Oh, I have an itchy nose and so forth. So again, I think it is sinking in slowly. But I walk down the street and I see people cough with their mouth open, and the sneezing. And again, the sneezing is not as cause for alarm, but it's really, you don't want to spread.
We need to practice these habits.
Yes, social hygiene.
Yeah, coronavirus or not,
Yes.
you need to.
And then also sleep is critical. I think now we live in this electronic age. Remove all electronics from your bedroom. You don't want any bright lights in your bedroom. You want blackout curtains, because the body needs about 90 minutes for melatonin production to kick in, and that ensures deeper sleep. So no more electronics. Ideally, turn off your electronics 1 full hour before bedtime, and just really rely on conversation and just relaxation an hour before bedtime. Very important to get more sleep. And then you want to spend more time outside. You want to definitely be outside. Open your windows. Open your windows in your home, and then get outside, because you need the exposure to the sun, and you need more vitamin D. And vitamin D is very supportive of the immune system. Ideally, if you can, reduce your stress load. So I hope I can comfort some of your viewers today to show that we have to get big perspective. The death rate is under 1%, and basically that number could be lower, and I'll explain why later. Because you can't, if you tested 1 billion people, then the death rate would be even lower, because then you get bigger context. But you can't test 1 billion people. You just can't. So.
And everyone is in panic mode right now.
And this shouldn't be in panic mode. We have to be respectful, and I think we're working together as a community we're limiting travel now from all over the world. We're banning travel.
Schools are closing.
Schools are closing, and I think this is disruptive and inconvenient. I think it'll be very, very valuable. It's going to flatten the curve, as they say, and that's my last.
It's like a world vacation.
It's a world vacation. Yeah, it's one way of looking at it. This is we keep talking about flattening the curve. It's basically, the curve is high curve, high number of deaths. Low curve, low number of deaths. So by lowering the curve, this can happen if you try to mitigate exposure. And you can do that in all kinds of ways. You want to just, by trying to reduce the spread of the disease, you want to reduce unnecessary travel, avoid conferences, avoid crowded locations. You want to contain. You want to contain by closing schools and even banning travel if necessary. And then quarantine. I'm really happy to hear that people who have no symptoms but were exposed, and they know they were exposed, are self-quarantining. Basically, this is someone who has no symptoms, but they want to close themselves off for that 14 days.
That's good to know.
I think it's very, very good.
Yeah.
And then you isolate. You isolate someone who has symptoms. So all these strategies are in place. They're being kicked in, and this is going to mitigate the spread and flatten the curve. So I'm very, very happy about that. I hope your viewers can, get some comfort. Now, basically, I think we need perspective. Right now, there's no cure for COVID-19.
That's hard to digest.
Well, but there's a lot you can do. There are a lot of pharmaceutical supportive therapies, like antivirals. There are these broad antivirals that will attack the RNA of these viruses, and they're being used to try and lessen the viral load. So even though it's not a cure, it is supportive. There's also medications for malaria apparently are having some success because these anti-malarial drugs can also attack the architecture of the bug, if you wish. Steroids are being used because you want an anti-inflammatory strategy, especially when your lungs are getting inflamed with fluid. And by reducing the histamine load and the inflammation load in the lungs, that can be very, relieve the discomfort as well as slow down the disease process. And then I think it's important to repeat that up to 80% of patients spontaneously recover. And so even though we're giving patients antivirals, anti-malarials, anti-inflammatories, at this stage we don't know what's doing what. And I think, see, I shouldn't touch my face. And basically, and I think this is the ethical dilemma for many, many medical doctors and researchers, is that there's a bit of optimism in some of the research that they're doing. Oh, in the lab, in vitro, this is showing promise against viruses and bugs and malaria and inflammation. And they give it to everyone now. But can they say what's curing what? They can't, because they haven't done a double-blind, placebo-controlled, random trial. And it's an ethical conundrum because these things take 18 months. People want to do something now. So I'm glad something's being done now. Can we say it's a cure? No. But I think it is supporting the healing process.
The healing process
So,
slowly, right.
so absolutely. So this is the pharmaceutical world, and I commend the research community for just throwing these therapies out there. It's a polypharmacy, but I think it's important to do something. When the numbers have abated, then you can do some, dispassionate research, because research has to be void of passion.
I hope with the next few weeks in quarantine for everyone, all large gathering, we'll probably see it slowly disappearing.
That's the hope. That's the hope. I think that's historically a big example is the Spanish flu from 1918. There were two cities in the United States that had different strategies. Philadelphia at the time was a much more important center, so it was much more crowded. And they'd have big meetings, they'd have big events with hundreds of people. The death rate in Philadelphia was quite high. When Kansas had heard about this, they were very, very aggressive with dispersing crowds. No one, you couldn't have groups of more than 10 people. So it could be maybe 5 people, but you couldn't have groups as big as 10 people, whereas in Philadelphia there were hundreds. The death rate was much lower in Kansas. Also, Kansas is less populated than Pennsylvania, so there's that as well. But it did work in 1918, and there were no antibiotics back then, and hygiene was very different back then. So,
Let's take a quick break. More coming up with COVID-19. Welcome back. Nora, our immune system is one that we have to think about protecting. What can we do to protect our immune system?
well, I'll tell you what I do. I've been seeing a naturopathic doctor since 1995, and I practiced naturopathic medicine for almost 20 years. So I'm retired from naturopathic medicine, but I still see a naturopathic doctor about once a year for a tune-up. And what I've been taking for me is tried and true, because prior to seeing a naturopathic doctor, I used to get the flu, a low-grade flu, for 6 weeks. 3 weeks in November, December, 3 weeks in February, March. I would drag myself to work feeling like garbage. And then I saw a naturopathic doctor for the first time in 1995. I said, I can't do this anymore. And I've got a full workload. I'm going to night school. What can I do? And so I laugh. I was eating toast and cereal for breakfast. I had a sandwich for lunch, pasta for dinner. Well, hey, not very good nutrition.
You were placed on that.
Yeah, so I basically start eating meat for breakfast. Very important. Eat tuna salad, eat chicken salad, eat fish, eat meat for breakfast, eat protein. I love hemp seeds, I love flax seeds, I love pumpkin seeds, because I love all kinds of protein.
So if you're not a meat eater, then you go for the seeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Substitutes.
Hemp seeds are full protein, and pumpkin seeds are wonderful source of protein, and tofu. But eat protein for breakfast, because our immune system needs immunoglobulins, and that's a protein-bound immune mediator. Very, very important.
That way, you're building for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So stop eating cereal and toast. during this COVID.
I have to-
Stop it.
I have
Just
to
stop
tell
it.
that to my son.
Yeah, stop it.
Okay.
Because it raises, white flour raises your blood sugar faster than actual sugar. So, and that can lower your white blood cells.
The healthcare should be teaching people or pushing build your immune system. These are the ways.
It works for me. I have a screen here with immune supporting foods, so foods that are rich in vitamin D3 and zinc and selenium and vitamin. We can put that on the screen. And I love certain herbs too. I take milk thistle.
I like that. I
Yeah,
do that too.
sure. And milk thistle, I take it. I take about a big 200 ml bottles. I take 20 mils a day for about 10 days, and I repeat that in 6 months. So it's not every day, but the milk thistle is very good for the liver and also for the immunoglobulins.
Okay, 10 days straight.
Yeah,
And
then
not for-
repeat in 6 months. That's what I do.
Okay.
That's what I do. That's what works for me.
Okay.
But if you decide to see a naturopathic doctor, he or she may recommend something different. But that's what works for me. And then I love my favorite antiviral herb is astragalus, and you can put that in soup. It's a wonderful food, and it's a wonderful antiviral.
What about even the Caribbean that cannot get this one for the soup? Mm-hmm. Is there a substitute?
Yeah, I don't know. know.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, astragalus.
Okay.
But anyway, so I have so there's lifestyle that you can do that we talked about, getting outside, deep sleep, protein each meal. And I like also probiotics and prebiotics because the COVID disease not only affects the lungs, it can also affect the GI tract. That's very important. So part of our immune system resides in our digestive system. But so by eating foods like tempeh, tamari, miso, kombucha, kefir, with active cultures, it can just help. What it does, it crowds out the bugs, basically, because they're friendly bacteria, and it's a real estate game when it comes to disease. So you want to crowd out the bugs, and so it's more difficult for the viruses to take hold. I want to talk about air pollution. I have a slide here about air pollution in China, and air pollution in Lombardy, Italy, and air pollution in Iran. And I think I can't help but feel that that's contributing to the death rate. And so the death rate goes down. The death rate is lower in France than in Italy, and there are many smokers in France as well, but they have cleaner air in France because of nuclear, and we have very clean air in Ontario because of nuclear. So we're very lucky in Ontario.
So they would have to check pollution in order to get rid of this.
Air pollution isn't going to help, like smoking isn't going to help. You don't want to be smoking if you have COVID-19, and you don't want to be in pollution if you have COVID-19. And basically, clean air is definitely a health determinant.
So getting away, going to the country right now would be very good.
I think we're very lucky in North America and the Caribbean. We're sparsely populated, and we have more space.
The sunshine is good.
Sunshine, and we just don't have the migrant workers that you see in China. It's very different. We have more. The workers in North America and the Caribbean work where they live, not in China. They live in dorms, so that not in Wuhan. Okay, so I think what's very important as well is that it's good. We're very good at keeping with stats, and the death rates I think are being monitored constantly. But the death rates right now, as of this week, it's about 5,000 deaths worldwide, and there's about 139,000 active cases. So that's one ratio. But consider this: we have 5,000 deaths. Maybe that number should be divided by millions of people who are exposed. So we have to think about that the death rate is probably, there's a range, and we shouldn't just fixate on the one number that we know about, but think about it globally. So we're behaving globally with mitigation steps, and I think we got to think globally about the numbers to get less anxious.
And I think too, probably there are people in remote areas, their deaths, and it's not recorded. So we don't even know the true number.
Yeah, well, but their deaths may not be recorded, but also their blood test results aren't recorded. I think that's a bigger number. So.
Okay. That's it for Coffee with Clover today. Please take all the necessary precautions. See your health professionals, and let's get rid of COVID-19. Thanks for watching. See you next time.